Alright, so today's lesson for Algebra 1 is lesson number 82. We are talking about relative frequency today, so this is building off of what we did yesterday with the frequency tables, but now we're going to talk about relative frequency, and relative just means that you're going to switch the table so that it's something that we can relate other data to. So we want to use either decimals or percentages. So if we do percentages, the total would be 100%, and if we change it to decimals, we're talking about the total as just being 1. So it lets us compare, say, if other people do the same type of survey, we can compare the data more easily. So here's our first definition. Okay, the relative frequency of a category is the frequency of the category divided by the total of all the frequencies. Okay, so in this example, we would start with a frequency table. It's given to us. And we have, so this person did a survey of asking people if they prefer basketball, football, or soccer. And the results are shown here. The total people surveyed was 80. So to turn this into decimals, what we do is take each category and divide by the total of all the frequencies, which is going to be this 80, okay? It's our grand total. So our first one's already done for us, so we would take 20 and then divide by 80 to get 0.25 as our decimal there. And then we continue and do this with the other ones as well. So 32 over 80 is 0.4. 28 over 80 is 0.35. And then 80 over 80 is just 1. Okay, that would be our whole. We can check this also by adding these three decimals together. That should give us the 1 here. So 0.25 and 0.4 gives us 0.65. 0.65 plus 0.35 is 1. So that works out. Okay, then for changing it to percentages, I just move the decimal over 2 places. So this one's already done for us. 0.25 goes to 25%. And then 0.4 goes to 40%. 3.5 goes to 35%. And 1 would be 100%. So this makes it a little easier to kind of communicate this data to other people. So if I said, well, 25% of the people that I surveyed said basketball was their favorite sport. That gives you a better idea of what the actual outcome of the survey is, versus if I just say, oh, well, 20 people said that they like basketball. That doesn't give you a clear picture, especially if you're not saying how many people were surveyed. And if someone else were to conduct this survey with, say, maybe 200 people, they could compare their results to this person's results by looking at the percentages. So they would be able to tell the differences more clearly there, or maybe how similar they are. So that's this, okay? Then moving on, if we have 2 different categories, so this would be like our two-way frequency tables from yesterday. This says that for her survey about sports preferences, Mia also recorded the gender of each student. So this is the same student. You'll see the total is the same as the example from the last slide. Okay, but it's also looking further at her data. She also split it into the girls and boys and what they preferred for each of those 3 sports. Okay, but we could do the same thing so we can see what the percentage of people would be in each of these categories, or we could look at it as a decimal. So we do the same thing. We look for our grand total, which is 80 still here, and we just divide all the data by 80, by that grand total number. Okay, the ones at the bottom, like I said, are already given to us, or we did them on the last slide, so I'm just going to fill those ones in with the decimals. Okay, and again, if you look at our grand total, this is the whole, okay? There's 1. So of this 1, 0.35 liked soccer, 0.4 liked football, and 0.25 liked basketball. Okay, but specifically I want to know, well, what percentage or what decimal of the whole that were surveyed were girls who preferred basketball. So I would look at 6 over 80, that's 0.075. So I could say that 7.5% of the people surveyed were girls who preferred basketball, and so on with these. Okay, so I'm just dividing everything by 80. Could use a calculator for this, or you would reduce the fraction and then try to put it over 100. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is what we get here. Alright, and for the totals, when I do 36 over 80, I get 0.45. I could also check that by adding the total of the girls in each of these categories. And then for the 0.55, I could do 44 divided by 80. I could add these, or I could do 1 minus 45, or 1 minus 0.45 to get the 0.55 here. Okay. The last thing that we didn't, oh, sorry, actually one more. So for this, same thing here. You want to convert it into percentages though, so they'll tell you for relative frequency if they want decimals or percentages. Here, this is the 16, 25, and then 41 go to these percentages. So for each of these, you're dividing by the total number and then converting it to a percentage by moving the decimal over 2 places, okay? So this is what you get for the first 3. Go ahead and try some of these on your own if you're doing this at home. But this is what you should get. Again, for the totals, you can always add the percentages that you get above, or you can do the division as well. Okay, so this 10.9 we get by doing 10 divided by 92 and then moving the decimal over 2 places gives us 10.9. Okay, and then same thing with all of these. So the total here I could get by adding 17.4, 10.9, and 15.2. Or I could just do 40 divided by 92 and move over the decimal. Same thing with 52. I could do 52 divided by 92, or I could do, I could add all of these together. The 27.2, 14.1, and 15.2. Okay. So that's how we do relative frequency with percentages. The last thing that you may be asked regarding relative frequency could be a conditional relative frequency. So this is our second definition for today. An example problem like this might say, what percentage of girls prefer soccer? So this was our data from the same data from the last example. So I would say, okay, what percentage of girls prefer soccer? So I'm not just saying what percentage of the people surveyed, because this total that we've been using is the people surveyed. But instead, I want to know what percentage of girls prefer soccer. So the girls, the total was 36. So when I'm looking at what percentage of girls preferred soccer, I want to look at the number of girls that preferred soccer divided by the total number of girls. So this would be 18 over 36, which if you solve that, you would get 0.5, which is 50%. So 50% of the girls prefer soccer. Okay, and that's another useful statistic, right? That's something, a question that someone may ask. So that's how we would do the conditional relative frequency. Here's a couple more examples, again with the same data. But let's look at these questions. So what percentage of the students who prefer football, so that's the number that's going on the bottom, So of the students who prefer football, that's going to be this total, right? The students that prefer football is 32. The question asks what percentage of those are boys, so that would be this number, 20. So I would do 20 over 32. That gives me 0.625 or 62.5%. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so 62.5% for that question. And then I'll write it here, 62.5%. Okay, and then this question seems very similar, but let's look at how it's different. So what percentage of boys prefer football? So now I'm looking at the total number of boys, and I want to look at what percentage of that number prefer football. So the number that goes on the bottom is going to be the total number of boys, which is 44. And then what percentage of the boys prefer football? So I'm still looking at this 20 again. So 20 will go on top. That's going to give us 0.4545, or we could round this to 45.5%. So even though these questions sound kind of similar, they're really asking different things. So the percentage that's left of this would be the girls who prefer football, okay, right? It's saying what percentage of the students who prefer football are boys. So the alternative would be that they're girls. So whatever's left from that. So 37.5% would be the percent of students who prefer football that are girls. Okay. In this second question, the 45.5% are the percentage of boys who prefer football. So the rest of what's left to 100%, which would be 54.5%, is going to be boys who prefer another sport. So boys that prefer basketball or soccer would make up the other 54.5% there. Okay, so that's it for today's lesson. Go ahead and work on the homework, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.